Episode 241, Word of Mouth Marketing in 2021.
Digital Marketing Radio with David Bain.
Hi, I'm David Bain and this is Digital Marketing Radio, the show for in-house agency and entrepreneurial marketers who want to stay on top of the latest tools, tactics and trends shared by today's modern marketing masters. What exactly is word of mouth marketing? And how does word of mouth marketing manifest itself in 2021? How do you measure the impact of word of mouth marketing, and how does word of mouth integrate with other marketing channels? Those are just some of the questions that I'm going to be asking today's guest on Digital Marketing Radio, episode 241, a man with over 30 years of experience in marketing, digital strategy and product management for companies ranging from startups to global brands such as Madison Square Garden, Johnson and Johnson and National Geographic. He's founded 3 digital strategy and marketing agencies and is currently CEO of digital marketing service firm Boomtime. Welcome to DMR, JP Clement.
Thanks for having me, David.
Yeah, thanks for coming on, JP. Great to have you here. So, of course, you can find JP over at boomtime.com. JP, word of mouth marketing. You say that word of mouth marketing is one form of marketing that really works. Why is that?
Well, it does work because it's been proven year over year to be one of the top tactics or technique for marketers to generate awareness and consideration. So basically, filling up the top of the marketing funnel. Every study says that referrals and experience with content marketing that is trusted and credible brings the best, the most, is what has the most impact on their decision making. So word of mouth marketing does work.
So is there a certain definition for word of mouth marketing? Is it existing customers telling other prospects or people that would be interested potentially in a business's services about that business, or is there another better definition for that?
Yeah, I think there are many definitions of word of mouth marketing. Some people think it's just influencer marketing. We tend to, at Boomtime, to think about word of mouth marketing as, a combination of a bunch of different digital marketing tactics, such as content marketing, email marketing. It's basically all about spreading the some awareness and messaging about what you do as a company. We think about it this way because most of our focus is on B2B businesses, so businesses that sell to other businesses. For these types of businesses, the word of mouth marketing for us takes a little bit probably different form than you would take for B2C marketers.
Okay. So I'm sure we'll come on to, the differences between word of mouth for B2C versus B2B. But just in terms of definition of word of mouth and what word of mouth is and how it's changed, has it changed much over the years? I mean, is word of mouth marketing very different in terms of the way it operates in 2021 compared with maybe a few years ago?
I would say yes. At the very beginning, word of mouth marketing was pretty rudimentary, and you didn't have a lot of tools to actually implement word of mouth marketing campaigns. In the past, I would say 5-6 years, there's been a lot of changes in word of mouth marketing. A lot of companies have actually come up with all kinds of tools, SaaS tools, to help you do word of mouth marketing in a box almost. And so we don't do that necessarily. We don't use those tools at Boomtime. But they are out there, they exist, and they work pretty well. We still believe in the fact that people are a little bit better than AI still in marketing, although that may change in the next few years. But there's been a lot of changes in the world of word of mouth marketing.
So how can a brand be strategic with their word of mouth marketing? Or is it not just the case that if a product's great and you make that product great and if you make your customer service great, then people are naturally going to tell their friends about their experiences with your brand, or other more strategic, better things that you can do to make that more likely to happen?
Well, first, I think any marketing endeavor should be based on a very sound and thoroughly thought out strategy. But for word of mouth marketing is specifically, the sad fact is that people who are disappointed in your product are 8 times more likely to talk about it than people who are happy with your product. So as a marketer, especially a word of mouth marketer, you have to have a strategy in place, and you have to stoke the fires of word of mouth marketing.
Okay,
There are several tactics and techniques that you can use for that. But yeah, in and of itself or by itself, it will not happen. You have to really work on it.
So what will be one or two tactics that you could perhaps share now to give the listener or viewer something to take away with and try in their business?
Yeah, so there are several, but I think the most obvious one is online reviews. So advocacy, if you think about it in terms of the marketing funnel, and getting your customers to talk about your product, especially if you had a good experience with it, and leave reviews on any place that makes sense for your business. So it could be Google reviews, it could be Yelp reviews, it could be any kind of other directory type of reviews. But those reviews are super critical in terms of generating that word of mouth and that advocacy. The other tool I think that should be considered is sorry, I lost my train of thought here. I had a very clear tool in mind, but yeah. So testimonials obviously go with reviews, online reviews, but also again, if you can get people who are peers to your customer base to give you testimonials, reviews, case studies, those kinds of things are really important in terms of spreading the word of mouth.
Okay, so initially, I guess when you think of word of mouth, it's verbal. It's talking directly to someone. But from the way that you were describing it there, actually, it's not about sharing things face to face. It's potentially just hearing what other real customers are saying about something. So it could be in the written form. Is audio and video becoming more important, or is it still primarily about text-based then for word of mouth?
Yeah, so in this day and age, face-to-face has lost a lot of its appeal for very obvious reasons. So yes, the written word is important, but video has become probably one of the most important medium in terms of marketing. Period. The engagement with video on the web, on social media networks is just blowing away any other type of medium. So podcasts obviously great. I know we're doing one right now, so but those do work very well. But I think if I had to rank them, I would say video first, podcast or audio second, and written word third. Again, some businesses or some products or brands might have a different ordering just based on what they do and who they are and what their brand is, but overall I would say that people should definitely focus on video.
Okay, I've talked to a few people from Hotjar in the past, and they've actually grown their brand very effectively using word of mouth marketing, thinking about it, because they actually get many sales from people who have heard about their brand from recommendations from appearing on other podcasts, and it's great, but it's also actually very tricky for them to measure. So how do you measure the effectiveness of word of mouth marketing and do more of what works better?
Yeah, that's a very good question. I'm big on measuring anything that we do as an agency, and the great thing about digital marketing that most of what you do is measurable. But yet, still that link between a podcast, a video podcast, an article, a blog post, and everything, and its result in terms of converting leads into clients or converting listeners into leads is a little bit harder to measure. But there are tools that you can use. By the way, Hotjar, we're a big fan of Hotjar at Boomtime. We actually do use their product. But so we try all kinds. There's all kinds of little tricks that you can use to start measuring that. We do, and we do that actually. We do our own podcast, and we measure that by looking at, we look at things like subscribers. We put tracking pixels in everything we do. We have calls to action at the end of our videos and our podcasts. These are ways that can enable you to track conversions, especially if you use a tool like a Gravity form on the other hand, or some kind of lead capture tool on your website, and pushing people to specific pages or places on your website. Then you can start tracking, where they're coming from if you have the tracking pixel, and starting tracking your conversion rates and things like that. So there are tools and ways to measure that, but you have to work at it a little bit.
Yeah, I've interviewed Louis Grenier and David Darmanin from Hotjar, so they're both great guys. And the thing I found about driving people to a call to action from a podcast is the majority of listeners want to actually take that call to action, but they still will listen to the content. They'll still get that increased brand awareness because of listening to your podcast. I obviously produce podcasts for B2B brands out there, so I'm always thinking about helping clients to measure the value of publishing a podcast. And I'm always uncomfortable with telling them to have a strong call to action on a podcast and use that as a means of measuring how successful that podcast episode has been. What are your thoughts on other ways to measure the impact of appearing on a podcast or publishing a podcast yourself? Because I'm tempted to say to clients things like, well, ask your customers or ask your listeners, ask people how they actually heard of you to begin with when they become a customer. And that helps you decide on what content to publish in the future and see what content has worked. Is that kind of question a good thing to do, or is there something I'm missing in terms of a better way to measure the effectiveness of a podcast?
No, that's definitely a very good question to ask. We do actually at Boomtime always ask people, how did you hear from us? Sometimes we know, sometimes we don't, and therefore the best way to get that piece of information is to ask for it. It's a great question to ask. I mean, and another question to ask, which is the thought that I had when we were talking about advocacy and word of mouth marketing generation for happy customers. One question that we do ask as well, and I recommend any digital marketer to ask, is a very, very simple questions that leads you to the computation of an NPS score, a Net Promoter Score, which is, how likely are you to recommend blank to a colleague or peer? And that's a very simple question, and it takes literally 20 seconds for customers to answer it. And it's not a very intrusive question. And it really can do wonders in terms of tracking your word of mouth, in the sense that you can get a sense of, how likely people are to recommend you, to talk about you, and therefore spread the word about your company, brand, services, offering.
So how do you determine the optimum time to ask that question? Because obviously, I get annoyed sometimes when I buy a product or service and someone asks me to write a review before I've even received it. So obviously, ideally, you want to be asked at the time where maybe you've just started using whatever you've purchased, and you're more able to actually write an informed review. So how do you define the right time?
Yeah, look, the wishy-washy answer, but the right answer, it depends on what your product is, how your customers use your product or your services. So, for us, for instance, we ask that question about 3 months after we've onboarded client and started a campaign. For other companies, you can probably, if their experience with their product or service is almost immediate, you can ask a few days after they probably have used your product. I think it really depends on the behavior of your customers as with regards to your product or service.
Or maybe ask your customers, when's the best time to be asking you this question?
You can answer that too. Yes. Customers don't mind. In my experience, at least, customers do not mind being asked questions. Actually, it's another way to engage them and keep them, make sure that they realize they made the right choice by buying your service or your product. We do follow-up campaigns after a while. Not only ask that NPS question, but we also do we try to communicate with our clients after we've closed the sale as much as possible, and we recommend that to all of our clients, but they do the same. It's a great word of mouth tool too, to actually ask questions and communicate some information that is necessary for your customers to fully enjoy your products or service and get the most out of it, to communicate with them on a pretty regular basis after the sale's been closed.
Yeah, I think a lot of marketers, or not enough marketers, get involved with the post-purchase funnel stage.
Yeah,
and they just try and complete the sale and then move on to the next customer.
Yeah, exactly.
And we were talking briefly before we started recording about an example of a company. You were talking about HP of a company that has actually used a B2C example to bring in more effective B2B marketing and word of mouth as part of that. Do you want to share a little bit about that?
Yes, definitely. I've been an HP customer on the personal basis, on the B2C side of things, if you want to call it that, for years with their printers, which are really good printers. But as I started, having my own agencies and the business, it was very interesting to see how their communication and their advocacy was working differently for a small business owner versus just an individual consumer. And their products are basically the same. I mean, they have some different products for enterprise versus consumers, but the differences are relatively minimal. And it's interesting because they're using very similar tactics for all their digital marketing, basically, but especially for word-of-mouth marketing, that they're transferring and adapting those B2C tactics to the B2B world. And I think that's a very smart move, and it seems like they've been very successful doing that. So I was pretty impressed by that, especially for a company of that size. I've worked in the past for very large companies too, and their nimbleness is something that usually is not really a top quality. But in their case, I was pretty impressed by their marketing savvy.
We touched a little bit on obviously reviews and a couple of other forms of word of mouth marketing, but also the importance of measuring the impact of everything. How do you actually tie word of mouth marketing together with other channels, with other marketing channels? I'm thinking, is it possible to automate certain aspects of word of mouth marketing to maybe take the content and use it elsewhere in other forms of marketing as well?
Oh, definitely. Yeah, I mean, repurposing content is something that marketers should be doing a lot of. And it sounds like you have a question for me about secret software.
That was a slip of my finger there. I was hoping you were just going to carry on talking there, and I was going to edit it out afterwards. But I'll do a bigger edit afterwards. So,
okay, sorry about that.
I mean, so no. If you just maybe carry on sharing a little bit there about what you were talking about in terms of integrating word of mouth marketing with other channels.
Yeah, so there's a lot of ways to integrate it, and as I mentioned before, analytics and monitoring is very critical, I think, to any kind of digital marketing campaign. It is the same with word of mouth campaigns. And so, as I talked about tracking pixels and everything. So there's all kinds of ways to link what you're doing in word of mouth marketing with the rest of your digital marketing package. For instance, you could do Google Ads, right, which PPC or SEM, depending on however you want to call it, type of campaigns, and you can use these in coordination with some content or creative that you've generated for word of mouth marketing. That's another way to tie things that might sound very disparate and separate, but to tie them into one kind of holistic package. I truly believe that the best digital marketing campaigns, or marketing campaigns in general, are the ones that use multiple components and integrate them into a whole that will create synergies and will make them work much better. I mean, the problem we have in digital marketing these days is that there are so many different types of tactics, tools within each of these tactics, and at least our clients have a really hard time navigating that universe of digital marketing. And but what we do very well, and what I urge every digital marketer to think about, is how do you bring all these different tools together in kind of packages or that really are going to work for your marketing strategy.
I'll tell you what I was just thinking of while you were sharing that, and you mentioned Google Ads. I was thinking, if you're working very effectively together in an omni-channel approach, and you're maybe emailing people at the right time, asking them to leave a review, and they don't leave a review, perhaps you can then automatically add that person onto a retargeting list to show a Google ad to them, to ask them to leave a review for a certain period of time, and then hopefully they're slightly more likely to do that. Have you seen a strategy like that before?
Yeah, definitely. Actually, we do something a little bit similar for our clients, but we don't. In this case, we wouldn't use Google Ads, but we do remarketing via email marketing. A lot of people in the marketing world forget that email marketing is still probably the highest ROI of any type of digital marketing. It works very well. Your email list is a very, very strong asset that every company should consider, especially in a B2B space. So what we do is, like, if our clients don't hear back from their clients, we have post-sale marketing campaigns, email marketing campaigns that connect with that list of clients that they have, and ask them to do different things.
Have you ever tried to define a financial value of a review to a business?
Honestly, I'm sorry to disappoint you, David, but no. We track a lot of things. It's a little bit harder than some other of the things that we do, but I could conceive of ways of doing that, definitely.
Okay, sure. Okay,
Yeah.
I'll stop going down that rabbit hole. Let's segue into part two of our discussion. So it's now time for JP's thoughts on the state of digital marketing today. So starting off with
secret software.
So JP, share a lesser-known MarTech tool that's bringing you a lot of value at the moment, and why that tool is important for you.
Yeah, so there's one tool we use. It's called Azure Connect, but we white label it from the people who have created that tool, and we actually like it so much that we've partnered with them with that white label kind of type of partnership, and we are working hand in hand with them to make it even better based on what we do and what we know. And it's a tool that helps you generate leads, connections first, but leads, and nurture those leads within LinkedIn.
Wonderful. Just looking it up. It's AssureConnect.com, isn't it?
I think so. To be honest, it's I know the parent company. It's called Roll Digital, but yeah, it's called Azure. I think it's AssureConnect.com.
Yeah, it must be, because AssureConnect.com has a strapline saying "Your sphere of influence growing daily." So it must be that one.
But they've really taken a very simple tool and made it into a really powerful lead generation and nurturing tool on LinkedIn that actually can even replace your CRM. They can link directly to your CRM, your customer relationship management software, but you can also do most of that stuff in Azure Connect. And we are very heavy users. as I say, we rebrand it to our customers, but it's definitely a secret tool that I highly recommend.
Great, sure. Okay, well, moving on from something that you currently use to something that you're going to use, and that is...
Next on the list.
So what's one marketing activity or tool that you haven't tried yet, but you want to try soon?
So there are two tools that we've been looking at very, very closely, and we're about to test it on ourselves, and therefore try test those waters. One is called Webio, Webeo. The other one is If So. Honestly, don't know what the domain names are, but those are very interesting tools that enable you to, based on a series of kind of algorithms that they have, where you can present dynamically very, very customized content to visitors on your website.
Okay.
Very interesting tools that I think for people like us, for sure, because we have strengths in specific industries. You could literally, you can on the fly have a visitor. They figure out who the visitor is based on some criteria, and then what industries they are from, what company they are from, maybe in some cases, if there is a static IP address, and then you can generate on the fly content that will speak specifically to their industry or their company. Very, very powerful tools. I think I really believe in the concept at least, but we're trying to figure out internally at Boomtime how to use them, trying to measure what kind of value they're going to bring. But there is definitely a pretty significant technological kind of threshold or barrier to overcome. I mean, your website has to be ready to do those kinds of things. But I'm really excited about the prospect of testing them and hopefully rolling them out to our clients.
Superb. Well, I think I've found both domain names.
Okay, good.
Webio, Webio.com.
Yeah.
Webio supercharges customer engagement, so pretty sure it's that one there.
Yeah.
And If So, that was more of a challenge to find, but it's if-so.com, the number one WordPress personalization plugin. So I presume it's that one as well.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay,
good,
superb stuff.
really good sleuthing there, David.
Oh, I'm a professional sleuther. Well, let's move on to
The this or that round.
So this is the quick response round. 10 quick questions, just 2 rows here. Try not to think about the answer too much, and you're only allowed to say the word both on one occasion, so use it wisely. Are you ready?
I am.
TikTok or Twitter?
TikTok.
Facebook or LinkedIn?
LinkedIn.
YouTube or podcast?
YouTube.
Traffic or leads?
Leads.
Paid search or SEO?
SEO.
Ads or influencers?
Influencers.
Google ads or Facebook ads?
Google ads.
Email marketing or chat marketing?
Both.
Email, Martech stack or all-in-one platform?
All in one platform.
One-to-one or scale?
Scale.
Wow, we got there certainly. There were a couple of answers that surprised me. You probably paused a little bit longer than I thought for YouTube or podcasts. Was that a bit of a struggle to find the right one for that one?
No, it's because we film all our podcasts, for instance, and we put them on YouTube on our YouTube channel as well. So I think to me, I really do believe in podcasts, obviously, and I didn't want to offend you either. But look, I think YouTube has such a great reach, and as such, it's the second largest search engine in the world. After Google. So there's literally billions of searches on YouTube every day. If you do your YouTube marketing well, I think you can have a video podcast on YouTube that's probably going to generate more traffic and more engagement than just a straight regular podcast. So it was a hard one because I really do believe in both, but I think YouTube, just because it's so all encompassing, probably is a better choice.
And email or chat, you use your both there. So are you actively using chat message marketing at the moment?
Not well. Actually, yes, we are. And it's just that we are really believe in email marketing, but it's not really the sexiest thing. It does work very well though, and in some cases, I think chat has a place, especially for the type of clients we have, where being able to engage your customers like really at this, when they're on your website, for instance, some places like that, I think is a really powerful way. It's especially, and again, it's driven the fact that our clients tend to have very high CLV and typically a pretty small addressable market. So being able to connect one-on-one directly with those potential leads or prospective clients is really critical.
Okay, so let's move on to
the $10,000 question.
If I was to give you $10,000 and you had to spend it over the next few days on a single thing to grow your business, what would you spend it on and how would you measure success?
That's a very hard question. I've been thinking about this one a lot, and as we talked about, I really believe that you should, there's no more silver bullet in the digital marketing world. Back in the days, maybe 20 years ago there were, but today there are not. I think I would spend that money generating advocacy from our current clients. That's proved to be a really the biggest differentiators for ourselves. Happy clients that say really good things about us, and there are tools that you can buy that we've been looking at that kind of really manage that process and those interactions with the clients and generate the kind of advocacy advocacy programs in the box, and they're not very cheap. So I would do that, and I would and I mean the ROI would be pretty easy to figure out, right? It's like how many leads or referrals do we get from that program, and we know what the CLV of our customers is. So pretty easy to compute that.
Great stuff. Okay, well, to finish off, let's focus on someone else who deserves it.
Mm-hmm.
So that is a
magical marketer.
So who's an up-and-coming marketer that you'd like to give a shout out to? What can we learn from them, and where can we find them?
Yeah, so I would say that Wes Lemos, Lemos, you can find him on LinkedIn. He's the creator of that Usher Connect software that we use. And he's as much a technologist as a marketer, but he's a brilliant young guy who created a great product, but also kind of matches that great product with some very interesting marketing tactics, which I think are very organic and very, very interesting. His company is called Roll Digital. They're definitely under the radar, but Wes and I have had many conversations one-on-one. He has a very interesting approach to doing word-of-mouth marketing on LinkedIn.
Wonderful. Well, I found his profile on LinkedIn as well. It's just
Yep.
Wes Lemos is the URL on LinkedIn, so that was easy enough to find.
Yeah.
This was episode 241 of Digital Marketing Radio, where JP Clement from Boomtime shared very specific tips about word-of-mouth marketing. I love your focus on reviews and reviewing at the right time. So ensuring that you define, it could be 3 months into your cycle as it is with yours, JP, when you should actually ask that for a review, and also consider retargeting to encourage that as well, to optimize, improve the number of customers doing that as well. As your secret software, you shared Usher Connect. As your next on the list, you shared Webio and if-so.com, and as your magical marketer, Wes Lemos. So everything that you mentioned, JP, in the show today will be listed below the video on YouTube and in the podcast show notes at digitalmarketingradio.com. JP, what's the best social platform for someone to follow you and say hi?
It's really LinkedIn. We know I'm a very heavy user of LinkedIn myself. You can find me at linkedin.com/in/JP Clement. So pretty easy.
Superb. Okay, well, I've been your host, David Bain. You can also find me producing podcasts for B2B brands over at castingcred.com. Remember, wherever you're tuning in, feedback is fantabulous. Until we meet again, stay hungry, stay foolish, and stay subscribed. Aloha.
DigitalMarketingRadio.com. digitalmarketingradio.com. Digital Marketing Radio, Digital Marketing Radio, digitalmarketingradio.com.